Of Lands and Natural Resources launched the Green Ghana project. In fact, the kind of patronage, the kind of participation that we witnessed 6 months ago was said that we are hopeful that the trees are alive, they are growing, people are nurturing the trees, and a whole lot has happened. And with the support of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and the Forestry Commission, we look forward to a future where our vegetative cover is really improved and far better from what we see today. And we have the Honorable Deputy Minister in charge of Lands and Forestry, and also the Member of Parliament for Achimangwa North Constituency, Honorable Benito Owusubio, with us this morning. Also with him is the CEO of the Forestry Commission, Mr. John Alote, and a very powerful delegation from the ministry to take us through the success story and other measures taken by the Forestry Commission of Ghana to improve our vegetative cover. So I welcome you once again, and before I yield the podium to the Honorable Deputy Minister, permit me to acknowledge some dignitaries who have joined us this morning. We have the Acting Technical Director, Forestry, Mr. Joseph Osiakwan, with us this morning. We also have the CEO of the Forestry Commission, of course, Mr. John Alote, with us this morning. And we have the Deputy Lands Minister in charge of Lands and Forestry and MP for Achimangwa North Constituency, Honorable Benito Owusubio, with us this morning. And then directors and staff of the ministry and also the government spokespersons here at the Ministry of Information are with us this morning. Thank you. I will not waste my time. I will just yield the podium to the Honorable Deputy Minister to make the substantive presentation, and then we'll come back for your questions. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. I bring you good tidings from the Honorable Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, the Honorable Samuel A. Jinapo. The Chief Executive of the Forestry Commission, directors and staff of the Ministry, and also of the Forestry Commission, our friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. Some few weeks ago, we had our minister here, and he did a presentation on the land sector. Afterwards, we also had the deputy minister responsible for mines also here to do a presentation on the mining sector. Today, I am here representing the minister to do a presentation on the forestry sector. But then it's going to be in two folds. The first fold would be that of the Green Ghana that we did this year. And then afterwards, we will do a second part, and that part will be handled by the Chief Executive of the Forestry Commission on the entire forestry sector as a whole. Like the Deputy Minister just said, we will thank Ghanaians for the massive support that we received during the Green Ghana Day. What happened has never happened in the history of Ghana, to be able to get the entire citizenry, being led by the President, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to embark on a day program of planting over 5 million seedlings. Yes, that was what we said. Our target then was 5 million. And this was to help in restoring our degraded forest cover. Yes. We began by putting together our inauguration and planning committee. And then we also had a fundraising committee. And the fundraising was chaired by Nana Prajinsem and Dr. Joyce Ayi. They also had the operations and logistics committee, which was chaired by the CEO of the Forestry Commission, the Protocol and Publicity Committee, chaired by Mr. Kwaku Sechiado, thanks to all of them, and then the Monitoring and Evaluation Committee, chaired by the Honorable Francis Menu Adabo, who also happens to be the chairman of the Lands and Forestry Sector, Lands and Forestry Committee of Parliament. We inaugurated our planning committee, and it was done by our minister, the Honorable Abu Jinapo. The National Planning Committee was also inaugurated, and we did a lot of regional engagements and stakeholder engagements as well. Yes. We visited traditional authorities, churches, visited the Council of State, regional ministers, Red Sex, DISEX, the National Chief Imam, schools, the Ministry of Education, the Ghana Education Service, and the judiciary as well. We distributed a lot of seedlings. Very soon you see the list of the distribution. A lot of seedlings was distributed and we had designated seedling collection points. Some of them were in the district offices, and others too were in special located areas like the Accra Mall, palaces, churches, police stations, and all important places where it was easy for people to access and then also to lift the seedlings from. Overall, 7 million seedlings were distributed. And we have the list of the original distribution that was done. This 7 million is what we distributed. Yes, and we can attest to the fact that almost everything was planted. In fact, there was very high demand to the extent that at a point in time we even ran out of the seedlings. But what is important is that we have to realize that some private, well-meaning private and public institutions also on their own raised seedlings, also on their own procured seedlings by their own. And all that seedlings that they raised, those ones are not part of this. So in fact, if we are to even add all of that, the 7 million, I would say, is a bit even on the low side. Because, for instance, the Church of Pentecost, the Methodist Church, and all of them also were able to procure seedlings on their own. And some of them even helped in planting over 1 million seedlings across the nation in their various dioceses and their regional centers. And so that I would say, helped us in achieving the 7 million mark. But then, what it means is that the 7 million mark was achieved, and going forward, we also started with the monitoring and evaluation, making sure we visit the locations to ensure that at least people were taking care of the seedlings. Our various district offices, that is the forestry district offices, under the leadership of the CEO, also ensured that they monitored what was on the ground, and we can say that yes, we were able to achieve our targets. We also had a concept where we were able to rope in the Ghana Education Service with the secondary schools to have a program called the One Student, One Tree Initiative. And that really also helped us a lot. Every student in every secondary school was also tasked to also look after one tree, one seedling. And this has helped because it has helped to inculcate the culture of tree planting also in the youth. Quite recently, when you are doing something, it's always not the best for you to be seen to be monitoring your own self. And as such, we are very pleased and happy when we were informed by the National Investigative Bureau, that is the former BNI, that they on their own have done an independent assessment of the Green Ghana project across the nation in every district. They've actually presented their report to us, and I can say that the report was very favorable. The report states that 85% of what we planted survived, and that we should pat ourselves very well for that, because in the field of afforestation, 85% survival rate is a very good percentage and a very good mark. We cannot be here without also mentioning the donors and those who also supported us in one way or the other, but especially those who gave us some monetary contribution. And that, if you can show the slide, is important. I will not mention all their names, but then it's important that at least we see them. We have Richie Plantation, the Minerals Development Fund, Minerals Commission, Salt and Light Ministries, Ministry of Lands, Lands Commission, Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority, the Bui Power Authority, the Green Cycle E, Reverend Dr. Joyce Ayi, the Namibia Embassy, Emirates Airline, Guinea Embassy. You have an unknown, thank you, West Africa Quarries Limited, Petroleum Commission, Provident Insurance Company, Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Ministry of Defense staff, and the names of the staff who collectively donated are also on the list. The PMMC, Liber Ghana Limited, Maureen Odoi, Mr. and Mrs. Ewuku, the management of AN, ACO Buabing, and we have the Colombia ambassador to Ghana, Mr. Joseph Apia, Julius Agboa, Kwame Nati Saiti, Maureen Odoi, Philip Katiriku, Medok Yabua, Totime Tete. Someone will say that the figures are not very much, but then it's important that we encourage them. These collections came through the MOMO collections that we set up. DVLA, We have an anonymous person, UK High Commission, the Minister himself, Honorable Samuel A. Jinapo, Ghana Cocoa Board, Bank of Ghana, Ghana Police, Honorable Benito Usubio, and Honorable George Mrekuduka. We have the Red Plus and an anonymous one again. So we will say a thank you to all of them, and we still not ended with the fundraising aspect of it, because we need to also be able to raise enough funds to be able to undertake next year's Green Ghana Day event. So our lines are still open for donations. Those who intend to give us, we are there to receive. And then we'll make sure that we will use it for a very just cause to help in greening Ghana. We have some pictures of the planting. Yes. But then, like the Deputy Minister for Information, Honorable Fatih, just said, yes, this week marks the 6 months, exactly 6 months since the Green Ghana Day event. We've set up a WhatsApp platform and also a social media handle, a hashtag Green Ghana, hashtag My Tree is Alive, hashtag Visit Your Tree. The whole idea is for us to visit our tree to see how our trees are doing, and then for us to take a selfie with our tree so that it will encourage and urge others on. As we keep on doing that, it will urge others on for others to also visit their trees and also to take care of their trees. We will thank the various prominent and eminent Ghanaians who also helped us and assisted us in championing the Green Ghana Day event, especially the President of the Republic, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the Otumfuo Osei Tutu II, the Yana, the various traditional authorities and traditional chiefs of the National House of Chiefs, the clergy, the chief imam, and all Ghanaians for, I would say, a good work done. In 2022, Green Ghana continues. It's still going to be held in June 11th again. But then, we are praying that God will favor us with enough rains like we received this year, so that next year's event, which we had planned to plant 20 million, will become a very successful event. On that note, I'll end the first section here and then call in the Chief Executive of the Forestry Commission to continue with the second part. Thank you.
Honorable Fatih Abubakar, Deputy Minister for Information. I observe all protocols as enumerated by the Deputy Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Benito Owusu-Bio, and I thank him for the detailed information on the Green Ghana. My presentation will further look at some of the achievements of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources so far as the forestry sector is concerned. I will be looking at the forest management and landscape restoration, the timber trade and industry, the wildlife and ecotourism and development, And then I would look at the climate change issues and what we will be looking forward to in 2022. The Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources manages through the Forestry Commission the wildlife and forest resources. And one thing is that if you are the manager of a resource, you need to have, clear information about the resource. The ministry and the Forestry Commission, on several occasions have been asked to make a presentation on what the Ghana's forest actually represents. And so I'll take this opportunity to provide or throw some light on the forest, the current forest state, so far as Ghana is concerned. The Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, tasked the Forestry Commission to come out with the clear, size of Ghana's forest. Some work had been done previously, but with, collaboration from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, the Forest Research Institute of Ghana, that's FORIG under the CSIR, and in collaboration with the University of Leicester, University of Edinburgh, Carbon Map of UK, and then the Ecometrica company in UK, with support from the UK Space Agency, under the direction of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. We were able to come up with a wall-to-wall clear information about Ghana's forest. And it's not only Ghana's forest, but then the whole land cover of Ghana, so that you can see what constitutes forest and other important land uses as well. So what we have is that as we speak today, Ghana's total forest area is estimated to be 6.57 million hectares. That's 1.27 million hectares as closed forests and 5.3 million hectares as open forests. This is work that as I explained, not only carried out by the Forestry Commission or the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, and this has been reported to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and it has been accepted. Furthermore, it gives us information about other commodities that are on the land, like cocoa, share, other land uses. So the map is very, very important. Some of the important areas that we can look up so far as the map is concerned, aside giving us the estimate of Ghana's forest, is the fact that it is able to, the software that is used, is able to segregate cocoa from trees, forest trees. So we are able to tell where we have cocoa. This is important because most people who buy cocoa and other commodities want to be sure that the cocoa they are sourcing is not coming from gazetted forest reserves. So we've been working with Ghana Cocoa Board to be able to, inform those who are purchasing cocoa that you can buy cocoa from this area, and because of traceability, which is important for the commodity market. This is also important because if you want to go into the area of carbon financing, where you want to make benefits from the work we have been doing in restoring the forest, you need to be able to measure the forest size year on year to see the improvements you are making. So if we have this 6.57 this million hectares this year, next year when we do the measurements, superimposing one map on the other, we will be able to tell what gains we have made and in which areas, and we also be able to tell where we are having further disruptions in terms of degradation, and where we are supposed to channel our efforts in terms of the management of the forest. This will flow into areas of tackling illegal logging and illegal mining, which a lot has been said about so far as the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources is concerned. So we have also dealt with issues to do with mining, most of the illegal mining are happening in the forest reserves, with the support from the other agencies of the ministry, like the Minerals Commission, and then the Operation Halt. We stem the tide of illegality so far as mining is concerned in the forest reserves. Now, if you go to the forest reserve, I think that most of the water resources take their source from the forest reserve. So if you have negative impacts on the in the forest reserves, it will definitely impact on the water resources. So the positive results we are getting so far as the water resources are concerned is an indication of the fact that a lot of work has been done so far as the illegalities are concerned in the forest reserves. And it is important to note that the President, through the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, made it clear that the forest and water resources are red zones, and we have been following this directive clearly. I would also like to give you some information on the progress that we're making so far as the restoring our forest land is concerned. And then under the National Afforestation Program, which has different components, we have made some achievements. And then if you look at the area of forest plantation, that is talking about new planting. We in areas where we don't have clear forest, we have done about 13,000 hectares. If you look at the area of enrichment planting is where you have a forest, but there's some level of degradation, and you are planting within the forest area. We've done about over 4,000 hectares. And then if you look at the trees on farm, that is a very important area because, as we said, we have huge land areas that we have cocoa and other crops. And we know our gazetted forest reserve. Gazetted forest reserve is about 1.6 million hectares. So if you are only protecting the gazetted forest reserve, all that you have will be 1.6 million hectares. A lot of the forest is outside the forest reserves. What are the ministry will call it off reserve, that's outside forest reserve. So we are interested in these areas, and then so we realize that most of these areas are farming areas, and then we are planting cocoa in these areas which are not forest reserves. We also need the forest at the same place. We realize that we can coexist. We can have the farms and still have the trees at the same time. So together with the Cocoa Board and other partners, we are planting a minimum of 18 trees per hectare in mainly cocoa farms and other farms across the country. So this is the area where we have made about 2.8 million hectares. No, million seedlings have been planted in those areas. So if you divide the 2.8 million seedlings by 18 or simply 20, you get an indication of roughly how many hectares we have planted so far. The other areas we are looking at is the employment. How many people are engaged in some of these areas that we are, spending, public funds. And then, so I'm giving you some information about that area. The Youth in Afforestation project, which is under the National Afforestation Program, we have about 35,000 workers in that area. This is an area where the key issue, we know is to do with payment of allowances. I'm happy to report that through the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and the particularly the help of the Minister, Honorable Samabu Jinapo, and the Minister of Finance, we've recently paid them 3 months' salary, which means that the only amount outstanding is 2 months as we speak today. We also have about 15,000 people working in what we call the modified tonja. Modified tonja is, the kind of project where we give degraded lands to, cooperatives or people who come together They will plant the trees, and during the first 3 years before the canopy is formed, they plant food crops. They intercrop the trees with food crops. They benefit fully from the food crops. It improves the economy in the local, areas. And then, so because all the money from the food crops go to them, then we also give them about roughly about 40% of the revenue when the trees are harvested as well. So these are some of the areas where we are working with the communities to be able to improve upon the restoration of our landscape whilst we develop and improve the local economy. The private sector is important because part of the ministry's work is to facilitate the work that the private people do, and we are encouraging a lot of people to invest into areas like plantation, ecotourism, and other areas that the ministry is involved in. And in this particular area, the private sector plantation development, people have planted 14,000. All these figures are as at the end of the third quarter. So all the figures I'm mentioning here, except areas that I mentioned, their projections are as at the end of the third quarter, that is end of September. Seedling production, as at this point, we have 3,266 people involved. This number would increase significantly once we, start the production of seedlings for the Green Ghana. If you look at the leap from 5 million target to 20 million, that is fourfold. That means that, and what the strategy is that we try as much as possible to develop the seedlings in the districts where we are going to plant the seedlings. What it means is that we are trying to get the buy-in from the people who live there. Once they are there, they are more likely to take care of help take care of the trees that have been planted, because it is business for them. If the project stops, what it means is that they are not going to have the opportunity to plant more, to develop more seedlings and benefit from that. So more people will be will come on board once we start the seedling production for the Green Ghana. So the Green Ghana, apart from all the advantages we are talking about, we are also, putting money in the pockets of people in the local communities as well. So this gives you, a snapshot of what is happening in the forest areas in terms of management of the forest resources. I'll move quickly to timber trade and industry. This is another very important area so far as the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources is concerned. This is the area where most private people are investing. This is the area where we have the timber firms who are producing a lot of wood products. They harvest the trees from the forest under legal and sustainable conditions, and they process this timber for both the local consumption and export. They used to have a lot of, industrial groupings. So they come to the commission, and different groups want different things to be done for them. The ministry, working together with all these groups, have been able to, we are not forcing the various associations to come together, but we've gotten an umbrella group, which was, inaugurated by the Deputy Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Benito Usubio, this year. So we have an umbrella body called the Forest Industry Association of Ghana. So now it is easier to deal with them, and they are able to coordinate their information so far as the forest sector is concerned. This is an area I said is important because from their figures that they presented to the ministry, they are employing about 290,000 people, directly and indirectly, 290,000 people. And these are not figures coming from the ministry. These are figures coming from the industrial group themselves. And they bring in a lot of, foreign exchange, due to the exports that they make, aside, supplying, wood material to the for all the construction works, and then the internal decorations that we have been doing. If you look at that area, the information from is from their end is that based on the categorization, they have 10 large size timber firms still operating. And then we have, but in total, we have 60 firms in that area. But lately, there have been so many small ones coming up. That means that there are more younger people who are venturing into this profitable area of our economy. I have some statistics here to tell you what is happening in that area. It is important we note that this is an industry in terms of export that most of the output from this industry, so far as exports are concerned, go into the real estate sector of various countries that they export to. And COVID impacts greatly on this real estate sector. So if you see the progress people are making, the private sector is making, it means that they are doing, more marketing. They are being aggressive in terms of the quality they supply to be able to get, these kind of exports. If you look at the figures in 2019, pre-COVID, I'm giving information pre-COVID, COVID, and then post-COVID up to the end of third quarter. In 2019, if I'm giving volume and value, the export volume was about 300,000 cubic meters, for which they generated 150 million euros. That is pre-COVID. In 2020, that is during COVID, you realize that the figure, dropped to 226,000 cubic meters with a corresponding value of about 116 million euros. 2021 up to the end of the third quarter, this private sector people have worked so hard, some of them traveling to meet buyers, tell them what you are doing, encouragement the ministry continue to give them. We have been able to, export 222,000 cubic meters, and then the corresponding value is 108 million euros. That based on this figure and the projections we have, we expect to hit about 290,000 cubic meters, and then about 145 million euros. That would be only about 5 million short of the pre-COVID period. That is a rebound, a significant rebound. And then this is so when you compare to what is happening in other countries post-COVID. The figures that follow tells you about what is happening on the domestic market. On the domestic market, you will see there is a significant increase in terms of the volumes. Because more and more of the companies are now, producing based on the legal regimes that we have. So we don't have a lot of this confiscation. And then the other thing is that we have also learned to develop the domestic market during COVID period, because the COVID period where the export opportunities fell, you have to find new ways, and the domestic market provided opportunity. Some of the very good companies turn these pieces of wood to very fine furniture. So you have in 2020, you realize that we did about 390,000 cubic meters, which was higher than the pre-COVID. That tells you that more of the wood stayed in Ghana. We had 390 cubic meters staying in Ghana, whilst compared to 2019, it was only 288,000. We've seen progress in 2021, where we have almost 300 already on the domestic market. We still have a quarter to go to end the year. But then with all these, sources, then effort that has been put in by the private sector, There are clear areas that we can improve in that area. So the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, asks that the private sector look at what they are doing and come out with recommendations that would help revamp the industry, that would directly tell the ministry what help they need to be able to improve upon what they are doing. And then, so the Deputy Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Minister Benito Usubio, inaugurated that committee. That committee is made up of almost about 70% of private sector players. And I'm happy to know that they've presented their preliminary report to the ministry. The minister himself has met them. They've gone through the report, and the minister has asked them that he's particularly interested in this area. So he doesn't want it to be, that kind of pages, so many pages. He will read the report, but they should go back and come out with 3 or 5 clear, practical, interventions that they need, that he can communicate to cabinet that this is what we need, and this is the results that when these interventions are put in, this is where we are going to be so far as that sector is concerned. So that is happening. The report has been presented, but we are awaiting the 3 to 5 clear information to reach the minister. The minister would meet the committee again. And as I mentioned, the committee is about 70% private sector and chaired by one of the private sector players. I would also like to speak to the issue of timber leases. If we look at the laws of Ghana and then also the Timber Resource Management Act 547 of 1999, all natural resources allocation to concessionaires are supposed to be ratified by Parliament. So all these timber leases that have been issued, some of them before we were born, once they've not elapsed, what we call extant leases, they are supposed to be converted from leases and permits to timber utilization contract and to receive, ratification by the Parliament. The minister, when he was, when he met the forestry sector, made it clear to us that he wants to make sure that this happens. So as I speak today, the minister has made sure that we are work on all the various leases that the concessionaires have, the timber concessionaires have. And then so we have reviewed, as I speak, 156 of them. And then those 156 have been reviewed by the Forestry Commission, have been presented to what you call the TREC. That's a committee that is established by law to review those agreements, and they have been presented to the minister. The minister has gone ahead and, true to his word, has signed those agreements with the various concessionaires, and then so these documents have been submitted to cabinet. From cabinet, the next step will be to go to Parliament for ratification. When it is done, that means that 156 extant leases and permits would have gone through the full, mill to have gotten ratification. Other ones that we are in the system are also being worked on. Last week, the committee met to review 30 of them, and they will also go through the process. This is just like it's been treated just like the way we deal with the mining leases. I would also like to mention that Ghana signed the voluntary partnership agreement with the European Union, and one of the key, hurdles that we need to cross is the conversion of these leases to permits, because we are unable to announce the issuance of what we will call the Forest Law Enforcement Governance and Trade license. We are supposed to issue that license to signal, that the products are coming from legal sources. But because the EU deems that the Ghana has not met its own law in terms of ratification of these extant leases, we are unable to announce completion of the process. So this is also significant. Once it is done, we are, getting closer to the point where we'll be able to issue what we call the fledged license. In terms of process, business processes, a lot has been done, under the direction of the minister and his deputy ministers. Every aspect of the ministry, every sector, subsector of the ministry has been working to improve its processes. We've heard of the improvements in the land sector. The Minerals Commission was here to also tell us about what they have done in terms of the improvement of the business processes. At the Forestry Commission, under the leadership of the ministry, we've been able to also improve our processes. One is the rolling out and training of the staff and in the private sector on the Ghana wood tracking system. What it means is that we'll have traceability. When you find a tree, even in Accra, you would be able to tell where that tree was standing and when it was felled, and the volume. We can trace it to the export consignment, what particular tree went into that. So it is easier to be able to deal with all these illegalities. As I speak today, 1,000 people have been trained on this, and we have been able to convert all the paperwork that we were using before to the electronic platform, where sitting in my office, I would be able to communicate some of this information, and we can have 1,000 people on the same platform at the same time and to do business. The engagement of the private sector has happened, and then we continue to work on this. And then I would say that there's even a process of enhancing this process to even do more. The other area that we have improved upon the process is to do with what we call the renewal or issuance of property mark. Property mark is let me put it that way. It's a unique, identification for a concessionaire. So if you are a Coffee Company Limited, you have a unique mark that will identify all your business with the commission. And to be able to renew your mark, which is done semi-annually, it is done in January and it is done in July. If you are unable to renew your property mark, by law, you can't do business with the Forestry Commission. And to do this, you have to be, a company in good standing. That means that you should have paid your taxes. That means you have tax clearance, your need contribution, normal company registrations, and then you are supposed to be somebody who, has not infringed on the, in terms of the legality, so far as the forest practices are concerned. And then more importantly, you are working under the conditions that have been established by the Forestry Commission, and you have paid up your stampage, which will allow us to pay royalties to the chiefs and then also get management fees. Before this year, what happens is that January, all the so many timber companies I've mentioned about, and private people who are doing hauling and selling, everybody will have to come to go to, if you're operating in, some are operating 5 different districts, some 6, you have to go to each of these districts and be cleared on all these requirements. So if you are working at a Bekwai district, you have to go there, get clearance on all these levels. You come to maybe Konongo, you have to go to maybe Western region, maybe Takrady district, Takwa district. You get all those clearance before you come to the head office with all your documents, and then the operations director will review all your documents, and then you'll be issued with the property mark. This takes a lot of time, and then some have to sleep in hotels, some have to travel around. It can depend on where your concessions are. As I speak today, we have a system in place that would allow you to go to any district of your choice. You go there, you present these documents, your registration documents, your tax clearance, your SNIT, and all those documents that are required. The district manager can check on his computer and tell whether you owe across the country. If you don't, he would upload those documents, and then the executive director sitting in his office in Accra will see it and give the go ahead. And at that point, that same point, your property mark would be printed out for you. So within few minutes, you will be able to do. You have the, if you have everything ready, you'll be able to do what would have taken you probably 2 to 3 months to be able to achieve. So it is good for the industry, and then it also reduces the face-to-face activities. I will move on to one area. It's important to mention it because the minister devoted time for this. It is to do with rosewood. It is an area that everybody in Ghana seems to know about. Everyday rosewood, everyday. This time I think it's gone down because of the direct measures and interventions put in by the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources and his team. With all the back and forth in terms of rosewood being confiscated and then being auctioned, and then sometimes the same people who whose wood has been confiscated finding new frontmen, which means that they are benefiting from their own wrong. And the minister said, fine, this time when the rosewood is confiscated, stop the export. No exportation of even confiscated and then auction rosewood. Initially, the minister gave the directive that the rosewood that is confiscated, the private sector people should have the opportunity to, those that are known by the ministry that these people are operating, they do furniture, it's given to them, the measurement is taken, and when they produce the furniture we will see the furniture. I'm happy to report that some companies came forward. I can mention Echo Furniture, and I can mention Fairnat. And some pieces were given to them, either to Rosewood. Most of the companies said they can't use because it's very difficult to work on. They were able to produce furniture from this. They brought samples, and if you happen to be in the Honorable Benito Usubio's office, you will find some of the furniture there as sample which the Fairnat brought to them. Moving from there, the minister has directed that for the meantime, whilst we are waiting for the local, furniture shops to, develop their capacity to use rosewood, all rosewood that is confiscated should be surrendered to the National Cathedral project. And he followed it up together with his deputy ministers and then the deputy minister of finance and the team from the National Cathedral. And he handed over, the rosewood that was at the commission to them. So subsequently, any rosewood that is confiscated would be handed over to the National Cathedral with the proper documentation approved by the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. And I will say that this has stemmed the tide. Our men are still on the ground, but because no shipment will be allowed, it doesn't make a business sense to go for rosewood just for it to end up at the National Cathedral. So that is to do with the timber trade industry. I'm moving to the area of wildlife and ecotourism development. This one area, so far as the sector is concerned, the forestry sector is concerned, that we believe have huge potential. Unlike the trees that you fell, and then it takes a long time for you to grow another one. When you go to the zoo or you go to any of our national parks and you look at the elephant, whilst you are looking at it, somebody may be looking at it at the same time. You don't consume that elephant. So the more people we get to patronize these centers, the more money we'll be able to generate. But we need to take care of these national parks, and we need to improve upon our zoos. One key aspect that was a problem for the sector is to do with the laws regulating this particular area. So the Wildlife Resource Management Bill has been on the table for a long time. It's been going to, sometimes you get to the ministry from Forestry, it gets to cabinet. Just by the time to get to cabinet, I don't know, because of animals, they don't get on time. Then there's a new government or a new term of a government. You start going through the process. One time it got closer to Parliament. It wasn't looked at. So for 13 years, this document has been going from the Forestry Commission to Ministry, attempting to get to Cabinet, or probably attempting to get into the Parliament. And I think that my Deputy Minister, Honorable Benito Usubio, a 4-time MP, knows this story very well, because all this while he was in Parliament. Fortunately for us, at the last retreat that we had at the where the minister had all his deputy ministers and chairmen of boards and all the CEOs and deputy CEOs. He mentioned that he was going to, with his team, the deputy ministers, they are going to work tirelessly to make sure that this time, this bill sees the light of day. I'm happy to report that the first critical step is approval. We have received approval by cabinet. So what it means that cabinet has approved the wildlife resource management bill in the first year of a term of a president. What that means that we have 3 years, and where we are just like when we had race call, we are at the Osu curve. Definitely within 3 years we will cross the what's the name, we'll get to parliament, and then we'll get this bill. This bill is important because along the line Ghana has signed up to so many international conventions, but then our laws do not actually support some of this. We need legislation to back this. Lately, everywhere you go in terms of hotels, and then everybody is trying to get a mini zoo. People are writing to the Forestry Commission. They want to establish ranches. People are writing, they want to have, pets that sometimes I don't want to mention the names of the pets they are asking for. All these things, we need to have legislation to support it. And this bill is going to make all that possible. There's also a huge opportunity for, some of the, unemployed, energetic youth in terms of what we call captive breeding. Captive breeding. We export a lot of animals outside this country legally, but you need to breed these animals, and all these are foreign exchange. And then the wildlife division, has the capacity to help these people to do that. The wildlife, traders association has been doing well in this area, but there's huge opportunity. But we need this to deal with all these new areas that we are looking at. We are also trying to decentralize by devolving power to some of the communities in terms of helping to manage some of these parks. We have formed what we call community resource management areas, which they call CREMES. But these CREMES need to be supported by all these things need to be supported by legislation. You just need somebody to go to court, and then you back off. So this bill is very important, and then so we at the Forestry Commission we are very grateful to the minister and his deputy ministers for taking up this, and then for getting the bill approved by cabinet in the first year of a term. We know we are going to get it through Parliament this time. We have also been working on the promotion of these ecotourism facilities. A lot of work has been done in terms of sending people outside to attend exhibitions, do a lot of campaign, on the digital platforms. But this time we have moved one step. As a challenge thrown by the minister to the commission, we have worked on developing an ecotourism handbook, which is ready and it will be launched very soon. I think my PR director has a copy here. It is ready. I think so. We just got the copy this morning, and the ministry will launch this document. It is a solid document. It's covering about over 20 ecotourism sites in Ghana. It's been properly done. It has its own ISBN number, copyright number. So it's not just like a pamphlet. It's been done properly. One very important part is that all the tourist attractions that we have even like the zoos and Kumasi Zoo, everything. You have also a QR code that you can use your phone to scan and to give you information relating to that tourist attraction in terms of the distance, the direction, and all that you'll find there. So if you say this is Kumasi Zoo, you have the QR code there. If you open to the other areas, you have all the QR code. It provides also information about immigration, and other things that the tourists that would love to come to Ghana would need to have. This is a Bia National Park. You have the QR code there. So if it is lunch and you have a copy, you can use your phone to scan, and then it will provide you with all the information you have. This one is Shy Hills. It's a comprehensive document. I will wait until the minister launches the document, and it will be available to you. As I mentioned, the export of wildlife products is an opportunity that has not been really tapped into. So I decided to provide you some statistics on this. People exporting royal python, other snakes, bear, lizards, giant tortoise under controlled conditions, legal conditions. So you can have some of these figures. I think if the slide will show that figure, we have live animals that are exported. In 2019, it's about 32, almost 33,000. In 2020, about 92,000. In 2021, at the end of the third quarter, without the last quarter, we have 105,125 live animals being exported legally. And I said this is an opportunity because people set up breeding, facilities. They do captive breeding. They breed these animals and then they export them. There's a huge potential that can be tapped into so far as this area is concerned. And hopefully, with the bill, we'll be able to propagate better this information. I was trying to collect some of the, the value figures, which normally the Ghana Export Promotion Authority will provide at the end of the year. We're also happy to report, the Forestry Commission through the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has developed its capacity, to manage some of these breeding. Very difficult ones, like some of the animals that do not occur here, like the zebras. We have zebras at the Shire Hills, and be able to manage them well. They've produced offsprings. So you can see the small ones. They were born in Ghana, made in Ghana. So the zebras. We have lions. The lion has given birth. They are the cubs. Some of the cubs are the Accra Zoo. If you can see, the ones at the Kumasi Zoo have also given birth. So these are we are in good times when we are multiplying our numbers in terms of the facilities and then the animals we control. I'm trying to present to you information about visitation to these ecotourism sites. If you look at I do this normally with the pre-COVID COVID and post-COVID. So you can see some of the figures we are getting. In 2019, we have 261,000. During the COVID time, we had only 88 because there was a time where we were, not supposed to visit some of these areas because of the pandemic. In 2021, up to the end of the third quarter, we are at 148, which shows that we are bouncing back. We are doing a lot of, promotion, and then we will get all this. The figures in terms of revenue are here, and we are encouraging people because it's not very expensive to go to these areas, and they are very nice places, open places. There are animals there to see for recreation, research, and then send your friends there, go there for picnic and holidays, visit some of these places. They are dotted across the country. It's not of course it's not only the Kakum National Park. There are so many other. If you go to the Kalakpa and other areas across the country, Gbele National Park, there are so many other areas that we can visit. But this is to give you an indication of some of the figures we are getting there and the promotion we are doing. One of the key areas that we, the sector participated in is the climate change area. I'm talking about the COP26. The Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Samuel Jinapo, led the forestry sector to this COP26. And then there were different programs that were running at the COP26 in Glasgow, UK. But I will focus on only the area that deals with forestry. When we were at COP, one of the key areas is that Ghana has received some, funding from various donors in terms of managing deforestation and forest degradation and improving upon our landscape. There has been a lot of talking in terms of the good things we have been doing. We've been talking about them. We have been showcasing some of them. But we saw this place as a good platform to, really present what we are doing, not in terms of agreements, not in terms of radio, but presenting what we are doing. And having the opportunity for people to scrutinize what you are doing, not only Ghanaians, but people who are providing a funding and people who are interested in this area, especially the nature, based solutions. So we organized the Beyond the Talk, and this time this program, unlike other conference of parties that we have attended, this particular time we had a pavilion for Ghana. So Ghana has its own pavilion so we're able to organize more programs unlike previously where we are only on the sidelines trying to distribute pamphlets and talk about our issues. So one of the key programs was the Beyond the Talk. The Beyond the Talk was to showcase Ghana's forest sector solutions to climate change issues. And then the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Samuel Jinapo himself, dealt with this issue very well. He was the one who spoke at this particular program, and he allowed some other people who support us, but they are not in our ministry, to also speak to the issues, to collaborate what we were talking about. And then the Deputy Minister, Honorable Benito Usubio, was present at that program. So the whole idea is to highlight Ghana's, solutions so far as the forest sector is concerned, and then to deal with issues relating to drivers of deforestation and forest degradation. Another program that the minister led us to attend was what we call the FACT dialogue. The FACT dialogue represents the forest, agriculture, and commodity trade. The aim is to address commodity-led deforestation among both producers and consumers. So this platform that is bringing both consumers of commodities that impact, commodities which trade impact on the forest. So we are bringing the consumers and then producers together, to be able to deal with these issues. And our minister spoke extensively at that particular program, and he was particular about the need to provide support for the smallholder people, like the smallholder cocoa farmers and other people who otherwise will not be recognized, or other people who would have otherwise been marginalized on in terms of that particular trade. We had so many prominent people attending that particular program. He dealt with this particular issue, very well. We also had one big one, that was the lowering emission by accelerating forest finance. This is a coalition, which have the United Kingdom, the Norway, and the United States joining, the private sector in those countries to raise $1 billion, to support, as finance to support result-based climate solutions. This is a very big. This was a very big program, and our minister made a very important statement at this program. And then we have some countries being able to meet the conditions to sign the letter of intent. Fortunately, Ghana, led by the minister, we were able to meet that condition. As we speak today, we are the only country in Africa to have met these conditions. Quickly, the minister didn't leave it there. We got to Accra, and he has formed a task force chaired by the Honorable Deputy Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Benito Usubio, to mobilize both our human and all the resources available to make sure we assess this $1 billion. It is how this committee is able to put our systems in place that will be able to assess this one. The committee, is looking at not only the people from the ministry. We've strayed to other sectors, including the Ministry of Finance. So we'll be clear in our mind some of the modalities we need to put in place to be able to assess this $1 billion finance when it is available. When I mentioned the beyond the talk, when we were showcasing Ghana's forest sector solutions, I would explain that through the Ghana REPLAS strategy, we've segmented the country into 5 different zones, and then we trying to present each zone and what it stands for to be able to attract funding. So we have the share landscape area, we have the cocoa landscape, we have the transition zone, we have the coastal and mangrove zone, and we have the Togo Plateau. So each one has its unique ecosystem. So the funding that we are looking for, the project development, targets those unique zones and then prepare documents towards that. So we developed we have 5 different zones. We have so far developed 2 programs that have received, attention from financiers, the donors. The Ghana Cocoa Forest Red Plus program, which aims to attract $50 million from the World Bank, has been approved by the Carbon Fund of the World Bank. We are expected to, sequester 10 million tons of carbon dioxide over 6 years. So this is what we call a result-based program. You perform, the measurements are made, and then you'll be paid based on the measurement. I'm happy to report that the first measurement, has been undertaken, and the information, sent to the World Bank. The World Bank will have to go through the validation process. As I speak today, the validation process is ongoing. There's a World Bank mission, engaging the ministry on this to validate the results that we have sent to them. So that's how come some of the measurements were, taken with the map and all other measurements becomes relevant. If you don't have these capacities, you will not be able to access this funding. So we hope that early next year, when the World Bank, after validating the results we have given to them, we will be able to receive part of the 50 million, and then the communities that are participating in these programs will benefit from that, and they will go back and then help in restoring the forest. So the first one, the Ghana Cocoa Forest Red Plus program, has received, there's a $50 million there, but you can't take it. You have to perform, and whatever you do, it will be measured, and then what is commensurate to your performance, you will be paid. The second one is the Ghana Share Landscape Emission Reduction Project that focuses on the share landscape, particularly the 5 regions in the Savannah zone. This particular one is looking at improving upon improving upon the landscape, restoring the landscape there, and then planting about 1.75 million seedlings of share in that area, which is going to immensely impact on the economy of the area. And we know that the share business is an area where the women participate in. They pick their share, so it's going to improve upon the economy of the women in that area. We are also going to look at the fire prevention, because that is an area where, with your best effort, if you don't manage fire well, within some few minutes you will lose everything. So fire prevention is particularly important in this area, and we are going to intercrop some of these share with food crops as well, what we call the modified Tonja system. This project is ready to take off. The office is ready. The program has been approved by the Green Climate Fund. The Green Climate Fund has provided $30 million. Ghana government and then the Global Share Alliance are providing the other co-financing to bring the figure to $54.5 million, which would go into these 5 regions of Ghana, the Savannah zone. This program will be launched. I'm very sure early next year. With all this said, we need to look at from here. Where do we go? So the some of the things I'm going to mention are some of the outlook, are some of the things that have been the Honorable Minister and his Deputy Ministers engaged us at the retreat to look at what we should be looking at. And then the forestry sector is going to embark on a robust afforestation program. This program has been presented to Cabinet. We are waiting approvals, and then we'll be able to tell you some of the fine details. But it's going to be a big deal. We're going to improve massively on the forest landscape of our country. By so doing, we are going to also improve upon the food production as well. I left some part out because our activities as a ministry does a lot in terms of food production as well. Because all these areas that I mentioned, we are doing the modified Tonja system. We produce a lot of food because they are intercropping the trees with food. And I can see here the records as at this September shows that we produce about 54,308 tons of plantain, cereals, tubers, legumes, and vegetables. All these go to the local people who help to plant the trees. Then they also benefit from the tree when it is planted. In this area, the ministry is also working, assiduously to roll out the benefit sharing system for those who plant the trees. So now we are embarking on the pilot of registering trees on farms. So if you have trees on farm, please, this is a good time to maintain those trees. You are going to register those trees, and then you will benefit from those trees when they are harvested. So we'll register the trees in your name. The pilot has started. Once the pilot is completed, and then we, sort out any gaps, it will be rolled out by the ministry. Where when you plant tree, it will be registered in your name, and you benefit from it. And those who are planting in cocoa farms, it will be registered in their name, and then they will benefit from the tree. It will not be only the Forestry Commission benefit from trees that you have planted or nurtured. It's both what you have planted and what is on your farm that you have nurtured. So the registration exercise, as I said, is at the pilot stage. The outlook for 2022, key among them, as I mentioned, is the aggressive or robust afforestation program, which will be rolled out. Then we are looking at, as we are working together with our colleagues from the mining side, to restore our, the degraded areas in terms of illegal mining. So we are looking at how we are going to, push back some of these soil in the forest reserves and try to revegetate, these areas. And it is very key on our programs. And then we also want to develop the program, as I've mentioned, under the Deputy Minister, a proper framework that would look at carbon credit, financing from carbon, across board. We need to have a framework and a clear understanding of what we are doing, the direction we are going, because of the sources of the COP26. Every day you have people coming, they want to sell your carbon for you. And we are saying, no, the ministry will have to, working with the Ministry of Finance, will have to come out with a clear modalities of how to do it. Otherwise, by the time we realize, people would have taken advantage of us. we would have sold our carbon very cheap before we realize it's something expensive. So the Deputy Minister is looking at that under the direction of the Minister. We're also looking at private sector investment in our ecotourism areas. We have so many of them. They are here. They are here in our books. A lot of, very unique landscapes, very unique, animals, and sometimes very unique flora. I'm talking about some trees which you will not find elsewhere. You find them here. Some of them have even migratory birds who come from other countries, and they are here. We have elephants, moving from Burkina Faso to Ghana to Togo, and they are all there. And we have them in our, our parks. We have monkey sanctuaries. We have we have area. We have aviaries and birds. We have butterflies and all those things. There are every region in Ghana. We have some of these parks and unique landforms, and then unique animals that you will not find anywhere. We want to, promote private sector investment in these areas, and we also will be looking forward to implementing the recommendations of the committee that the Minister has put together to revamp the timber industries. Honorable Deputy Minister of Information, I thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister in charge of Lands and Forestry. Honorable Benito Osubiu, and also the Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission, Mr. Alote, for that in-depth presentation. If you take nothing at all from today's presentation, you should know that the forestry subsector on its own is very critical if we want to develop our country, especially in trying to mitigate the effect of climate change, creating employment opportunities for our young people, and developing domestic economics in our various localities, and how to also rake in foreign exchange. I was very much excited about the fact that the Forestry Commission also covers our tourism ecosystem to the extent that wildlife ecosystem, to the extent that there are so many potentials that, but for today, I did not know exist in the wildlife sector. On that note, I'll say the floor is opened. If you have any questions for the Honorable Deputy Minister or the Forestry Commission CEO, will take the questions. But before then, let me acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Deputy Minister in charge of Mines, my own big brother, MP for Takwa and Swayem constituency, Honorable George Mreku Duka, who has joined us this afternoon. So we'll now take your questions. So we'll take 5 for the first set, and if we have time, go for another bout. If not, that'll be it. So we'll take 1, 2, 3. So the 3 questions from this side. We'll take 4, 5, 6. Okay, we'll take all together, and then we may not even have to go for another set. So in that order, we'll take the first 3 from the left wing and take the second 3 from the right wing. So your name, media house, and then you proceed to ask your question.
Honorable Minister, thanks so much for the presentation. My name is Bradfield Donko reporting for the Daily Statesman. My question is, you indicated that a national assessment conducted by the NIB indicates that the Green Ghana campaign has yielded an 85% survival rate. In next year, 2022, the Green Ghana campaign still holds. I would like to ask, what measures have you instituted or put in place to ensure that this percentage that has been chalked doesn't decline? Thank you.
Okay, so we'll take the next question.
Thank you. My name is Clefe Kufu, I write for the Ghanaian Times. I would want to find out what concrete measures the ministry is putting in place to halt the encroachment on our wetlands, the mangroves, and then the Ramsar site. Because especially if you move within the urban areas, you see how fast people are encroaching on wetlands and then the Ramsar site. So I would want to find out what concrete steps the ministry is putting in place to halt this degradation.
Okay, so we'll take the third question.
Good morning, Honorable Minister. My name is Nana Peku from Daily Searchlight. Honorable Minister, you didn't tell us how much the Green Ghana project cost the nation, and then how much proceed came in, because some donors want to know how much they contributed, because it will give them the impetus to contribute some more. So we want to know how much proceeds came in and how much money the government spent, either through the government's own coffers or contribution from other people. Thank you very much. And then my second question, Forestry Commission, certain hardwoods in the country have become extinct. Mentioned like Odum, Wawa, Ofram, Odain, Amre, and the rest. We don't more see them. What are you doing, as it were, to replenish or bring them back? Because these are hardwoods that are very good for some projects or products. We are no more seeing them. What are you doing, as it were, to bring them back? Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we'll ladies first. So I'll start with it.
Thank you. Please, I would like to find out, first of all, what accounted for the 15% loss that is in relation to the Green Ghana project, and what measures are being put in place to ensure that we don't experience it again. And then my second question has to do with the fact that if we have the regional breakdown, we want to know the regions that have most of the trees alive, so that we know that next time this is where we are supposed to channel our resources to, and this is where we are supposed to tone down. So those are my two questions.
Okay, so take the second.
Yeah, thank you. I want to add up to what you said. I want to know the period this monitoring evaluation was conducted, the period between which this was conducted. Then my substantive question is on the ecotourism side. I think it's a good, Ghana has a very good potential in getting a lot of money from this area. But what we have witnessed over the years is that sometimes such sites are neglected. And so I want to find out over the years how much has government invested in terms of improving the facilities in those ecotourism sites and facilities, so that it will attract more people to the place. Then I want to know the total sites, the ecotourism site, what is the total number in the country now? Thank you.
So take the last question. Okay, so take the third. Maybe we'll have to come back again.
Yes, my name is John Awuni. I represent Kesbin. My question goes to the Forestry Commission boss. There's this report that came out 2 days ago about youth in afforestation, precisely New Edubiasi area. They say for the past 6 months they've not been paid, and they're appealing to the Forestry Commission CEO to do something because Christmas is just at the corner and they might be spending this Christmas with nothing. Thank you.
Okay, so let's take the last one so that they will take all the questions at the go.
Yeah, I have a number of questions. So, yeah.
Please try to be brief, okay, maybe one or two. Number of questions, I can see a whole page.
No. In your presentation, you talked about Ghana having about 6.57 million hectares of forest. Right?
Please, can you speak up?
Yeah.
Please.
In his presentation, I'm talking about the Forestry Commission. He talked about Ghana having presently about 6.57 million hectares of forest. Do we know how much forest we had at the turn of the century, as the year 2000? How much forest did we have? Comparing that to today, and even as at independence, how much forest cover did we have? Comparing it to today. Regarding the animals which are being exported illegally, can we have more details about which animals are being exported and which quantities? Where were the arrests made or the confiscations made for these animals which were being exported illegally? And the people who were doing the export, where are they today? Finally, I think that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, to set the tone, let me start by saying during the introductory presentation by the Honorable Deputy Minister, he mentioned that when it comes to trees, they are like babies. Planting trees is not an event. It's a whole process. Like a baby, you would have to water the tree, you have to check on it, you have to prune at some point. You have to continuously invest until it reaches a point where you think it can survive on its own. So to set the tone, that is what I will say, that with continuously from 5 million to potentially planting 20 million next year in about 6 months, it should tell you that if we want to cut on the losses, what we have to do is to check on the trees and make sure we are able to nurture them onto a point that they are able to survive on their own. On that note, I'll yield the podium to the Honorable Deputy Minister, then the CEO of Forestry Commission. Thank you.
We have a question from Mr. Patrick Donko. Mr. Donko asks what measures we are putting in place to ensure that the 85% survival rate that we chalked this year, we will be able to maintain it. Mr. Donko, yes, you're right. The 85% was high, and that we are putting in all the necessary measures to be able to maintain that, and even next year to even do better. The Forestry Commission CEO and his management, as we speak now, have tagged all their various district managers. They've had the first meeting already, and the particular locations where the survival rate was low, those locations, the officers in charge have been taxed to ensure that they do not, they do not allow the situation to be worse next year. Also, there are other issues like, for instance, the location of where they planted the tree. Not everyone is very good at knowing how to plant a tree. I think next time we as a ministry, and then with the Forestry Commission, we would make sure we educate Ghanaians a lot on how to plant trees. Some of the trees, for instance, were planted on rocky patches, and it becomes difficult for them to survive. We've learned our lesson along the way, and we'll ensure that we don't repeat them again. Also, we are also putting in place measures to protect the trees, especially the ones that will be planted within the urban centers. We'll have cages ready so that we can put them around it and to prevent them from being attacked by stray animals also. And then the location. For instance, this time we are going to work very, very hand in hand with the Parks and Gardens and other agencies who are also involved, especially like the land use and planning, that's the planning, town planning department as well, to ensure that there's that collaboration. And they would also help in identifying the exact locations and what type of tree can be planted at whatever locations, especially with the urban afforestation that we'll be doing. So, Mr. Donko, yes, we are going to ensure that the 85% we will be able to achieve more than that. Yes, there was also a question about the cost. Yes, that's a very, very important question. Yes. For your information, there wasn't a direct budget line from government. Government did not give us a budget for Green Ghana 2021. Fortunately, with the good work that we did and with the participation of all Ghanaians, government have now given us a budget line for Green Ghana 2022. And what was earmarked and has been budgeted for 2022 is 9.6 million. 9.6 million Ghana cedis. And 9.6 million Ghana cedis for 20 million seedlings. A seedling cost on the average, if you ask my forester here, he will tell you around between 3 to 4 cedis, depending on the species. So if you do your rough calculation, we'll be looking at somewhere around 80 million Ghana cedis. We were able to do what we did this year without a budget line. And we know with the massive support of Ghanaians, institutions and agencies and donors, we will be able to achieve what we set our mind to. To us, nothing is impossible. Yes, you mentioned the donors who want to know how much they were able, the totality of what was donated. I think on my slide, it was there. It's something just slightly short of 2 million Ghana cedis was what we received. The remainder came from our own agencies like Minerals Commission, the Forestry Commission, and then That's within our own agencies. Forestry Commission, for instance, part of the mandate of the Green Ghana is already their mandate. So they had some internal budget that they had, and then they used that in supporting us. But aside that, I will say that nothing came from any other sources. The donors have informed us that if we plan ahead early and we are able to put our package together and then we apply to them, they will be able to help us from next year. So we know that going forward next year, just as we are here, we've already started, and we have the planning committee in place for 2022. And with that, we'll be able to put up our budget together and then try to source more funding from our donors. The European Union, the World Bank, all of them are eager to help because everybody wants to be part of a success story. So thank you. There was also a question about the breakdown of the survival rate. Yes, that we have it, and it was done by the NIB, that's the National Investigation Bureau. Yes, we will let you have that, but unfortunately we don't have it here. But because they did it across the various districts and the entire regions, yes, we have that. The officers in charge of those areas have also been involved, have been informed about it, and they have that information. Yes, and we will let you have it as soon as possible. The other questions I will cede to the Chief Executive of the Forestry Commission. That's to do with the encroachment on wetlands and the bringing back our indigenous tree species. Oh, the duration. This week happens to be 6 months exactly to when the Green Ghana Day initiative was done. Yes. It is always better to wait after planting for about, let's say, 3 months before you can assess how well they are doing. They did theirs from month 3 to month 5. So I would say it's quite recent. It hasn't been that far.
Let me address the issue to do with the wetlands. I think the problem with the wetlands, especially the ones that are in the city center, because of the competition for land in the city center. So you have a place like Sakumono, Ramsia site. That's the one that is very significantly encroached. Different interventions have been put in place to manage this. But what is happening is that the minister has asked for a comprehensive report of all the interventions that have been put in place, the size of the Ramsey site and the level of encroachment and the list of all those who have encroached and full disclosure of what has happened there. The report has been prepared and submitted to the minister. He has formed a committee which is chaired by Honorable Deputy Minister Honorable Benito Subio, with membership from the Lands Commission and other agencies that deal with land, and then the local authorities in that area, the TDC, the Tema Development Corporation, the Nungwap, and then other people who are within that enclave. And I would rather wait for their report as to how we are going to deal with it. But I would say that the Ramsey site doesn't, mean there can't be development in the grey areas, but those development must sit well with the what the Ramsey site was set up for, and then it must be non-detrimental to the the plan that has been put in place. So the committee, I'm sure, will come out with the report, and then the Honorable Minister will make that open. The indigenous species like Udum or Fram Emery, we are planting a lot of them. If we were to show you the various species that were planted during the Green Ghana, you realize that most of the planting that was done outside the city centers like Accra, which were looking for coconut, and then the fruit trees. Most of the trees that were planted in the districts are indigenous trees. They are what we plant more was mahogany. Mahogany was the highest, was the number one. The Green Ghana, out of the almost 7 million trees, mahogany was the number one. The Emery, the Ofram, the Udum were all planted. When you come to the city center, that's why people were asking more for the fruit trees. But most of our districts, they have the fruit trees there. They plant, and then all the planting we are doing, what I mentioned, the enrichment planting. The enrichment planting in our forest reserves are mainly indigenous species. Most of the non-indigenous species are the new plantations that are being developed, like those ones. They are planting more of a teak, and then Cedrella and other species. Those are at a completely degraded area, but in the forest reserves, we would always encourage the planting of indigenous trees. So you are going to see more of the indigenous trees during the 2022 planting. As I said, the mahogany was number one of all the species that were planted during the Green Ghana 2021. The payment of allowances to the youth in afforestation. I mentioned in my presentation that as at 2 weeks ago, I would say that we had 5 months outstanding. It was July, August, September, October, November, 5 months. As at this week, from this week, we received the funding from last week, and the payment has gone into the IE switch because we don't handle the fiscal cash. The money goes from the controller to Bank of Ghana to Commercial Bank, and is paid into the IE switch. And as I speak today, 3 months, July, August, September, has been released. So anybody who said he has not received should check his e-switch. It has been paid, and some of them have called to confirm that they have received the 3 months. So they have received 3 months as a goal. So as I speak today, what is outstanding will be October, November. So it is not 6 months. And government is making all the efforts. Our by our minister, and then his able lieutenants, and then the Minister of Finance, to make sure we are able to pay some of these money. I'll put it on record that the money is not sitting at the Forest Commission, as some of them believe, and we are not releasing those money. Neither is the money sitting at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Immediately the money is released, we make sure it is paid. But I would thank all these young men for the good work they are doing and the patience they've had during all this period. They continue to go to work, they continue to plant, and I would applaud them. And we know they are worth the allowances that they are asking for, and we would continue to follow up at the Ministry of Finance and ensure that they get what they so much deserve. The forest, at the turn of the century, the size of the forest was put at 8.2 million hectares. But I will say that information I mentioned earlier, that information was put out based on what the estimate was supposed to do. At the turn of the century, what the estimate was supposed to look at areas where timber can be extracted. So it covered only about, let's say, a third of the country, the lower third of the country, especially down from Kintampo down, and then leave the coastal area. And if you take the measurement, it's about a third of the country. And that is the area where the Europeans and the other whites will be able to extract timber. You know, we most of our money for even independence was coming from the timber merchants. And we have to put that on record. So the target was the 8.2 figure targeted the areas where we would be able to extract timber. So that was the 8.2. Then in 1994, when we were preparing the forest and wildlife policy of 1994, you can check. The figure quoted as the estimate was 1.6 million hectares. That 1.6, because it was forest and wildlife policy, the direction was towards protecting the gazetted forest area of Ghana, the forest estate. That's what we call it. And that 1.6 size is the size of the total size of the various forest reserves when you put them together. And that figure doesn't change unless it is degazetted. That figure remains the same. You know, whether there is a tree there or not, that area will still be a gazetted forest area. So that was the 1.6. So that has been the trend. So each time, as I mentioned, it is the need for which the estimate is made. But this time we decided, with the help of the KNUST, FORIG, University of Leicester, Edinburgh, Carbomap, Ecometrica, and with support from the UK space, we've carried out a comprehensive, estimates across the country, wall to wall. And then we can tell you, and what exactly the forest is, and the criteria for designating a place as a forest. 3. 1, the place must be more or equal to 1 hectare. Any place, if you plant trees back to back and the area is less than 1 hectare, it is not a forest. The second criteria has to meet is that the trees that you are planting should have the capacity to grow more than 5 meters. So if you cover the place with maybe some trees that will be below 5 meters when they grow, because we know each tree, the average height that it will develop to, it will not be a forest. So it will have the capacity in situ. That's what they say, to grow above 5 meters. The third one is that it should be able to form a canopy of more than 15% of the size of the land that you are covering. So if the canopy is no more than 15%, and you have individual trees standing scattered on the place, it cannot be described as a forest. And this criteria has been properly communicated to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and it is documented and accepted. And everything I have there as the work that has been done is something that is communicated internationally. It's not only Ghana-based information. So that is the point. At the turn of the century, the 8.2 million hectares focused on timber extraction. In 1994, the Forestry Commission and the Ministry of Lands prepared a document, the Forest and Wildlife Policy, and they put 1.6 million hectares as a gazetted forest estate. And that is not that didn't actually intended to take care of the whole forest of Ghana. And as I said, beyond the gazetted forest estate, we have forest outside what we call the outside forest reserve. Indeed, we have more outside the forest reserve than the what we have inside the forest reserve. What it is that there are strict regulations relating to the forest reserves, and you can't just enter and do what you want. But now the outside forest reserve, we are competing with other users of the land. That's why I'm able to tell you from the map. You can tell what is closed forest. You can also tell the cocoa. You can tell settlement. And each one, if you go to a town and they said it's maybe Kofi New Town, definitely the new area, they may have felled some trees. If you are doing development and you have pylons, under the pylons you can't have mahogany tree. You have to they will cut some of those. The roads we are making are taking part of the forest outside the forest. So those areas outside forest reserve, there is competition between forest and other land uses. And that's why we are trying as much as possible to plant trees in the farmlands, because those are not areas that we are having a lot of settlement and other land uses. So it is important for us to understand what exactly we're talking about when we say the forest and the land cover map shows that the forest area is 6.57 hectares, made up of the 1.3 and then 1.2 and then 5.3 between the closed forest and then the open forest. Anyone who wants further information, if you come, we'll give you, and then or you go to our resource management center. There's a big screen there, and it's very interactive. You'll be able to tell what is happening. We are able to separate between cocoa and then forest. So we are able to tell where cocoa is planted and then where we don't have cocoa, and the other cash crops as well. Thank you.
On that note, I would like to thank the Deputy Ministers from the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, the CEO of the Forestry Commission of Ghana, directors and staff of the ministry and the commission, the media, and all our invited guests for joining us this morning. Thank you and have a great day.